And a very happy Wednesday to you at 12:08 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in the state of Texas.
John, one of the things that the gadflies like to do to cause a little ruckus at LA City Council meetings is start saying a whole bunch of offensive insults in Spanish, so then the translator has to translate them into English. Are you ready for today's edition?
I'm more ready than you know.
Mr. Herman, you have 3 minutes for the items and 1 minute for general. Go ahead.
Muchas gracias para importación.
I needed some help bleeping the Spanish.
It's probably good you asked.
Abogado. Usted ya que nosotros quieren nada con inmigración.
Wait, thank you very much. Attorney, you know that we don't want anything related to the immigration issue.
But the swearing, that's fine.
Y es un cabeza de melón.
You are a man, watermelon head.
You do realize this is old school prank calling, but in person.
It's the best.
Democracy in action, kids. Democracy in action. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Doug McIntyre joins us today after the news at 1 as part of the Fix California Hour, so make sure you stick around for that. But first, we know that the insurance market in the state of California is destroyed, and it just seems to be getting worse by the day. One of the companies that announced that they're no longer selling new policies in California is State Farm. We know that State Farm was recently given the approval from the California Department of Insurance to raise rates on ratepayers, customers here in the Golden State. But despite the fact that California keeps giving to State Farm, Randy, State Farm gets caught just taking.
NBC4 has been tracking a family that's been trying to rebuild their home that was completely destroyed in the Pacific Palisades. And in fact, it's the home that Karen Bass multiple times has used as a prop, where she does a press conference in front of the construction site saying, hey, look at this. It's happening. We're rebuilding. And John, do you remember that last press conference when the reporters asked, hey, can we talk to the homeowners? And the homeowners are like, yeah, we want to be a symbol of hope, but, State Farm's not paying out our claim and we're going to go broke.
Oh, yeah.
Well, turns out that family is going broke because State Farm's not paying.
You don't say.
For more, here's NBC4. Here we go.
Now to our wildfire recovery. The California Department of Insurance launched an investigation into how State Farm's handling of claims linked to the Eaton and Palisades fires.
But as that process begins, fire victims are finding out the rebuilding process may need to end or at least put on pause.
NBC4's Carmen Dickerson live in the Palisades.
How exactly are we going to have the fastest fire recovery ever if people have to pay for their recovery out of their own pocket?
And then what will happen eventually is instead of getting the full amount, you're going to have to settle with them for a smaller amount because you're not going to want to spend the rest of your life in court.
Pause.
NBC4's Carmen Dickerson live in the Palisades, checking in on one homeowner's rebuild and the roadblocks he and his family are facing. Hey, Karma.
Hey there. So the person who lives in this house behind me, the family actually, was really looking forward to this home being a beacon of hope in the community. But they say because of issues with insurance, it's not clear when or how they'll be able to continue with their rebuild.
And remember, this is the house that Karen Bass tried to use as a prop to show you how great everything is going in the Palisades.
And the reality is these people aren't going to rebuild anytime soon.
A fully framed house on a fire-ravaged street. This home has become a symbol of the Palisades fire recovery. But what was a full steam ahead rebuild effort may be grinding to a halt.
We are going to run out of funds.
The Lopez family met with us last month as they came out to survey the progress.
I really truly believe that we are motivating people to come back.
They have been so anxious to rebuild their Palisades community, they moved forward with their rebuild on their own dime before receiving their full insurance payout.
Because
Yeah, that's your first mistake.
Ooh, that's a big, big, big mistake. If there's anything we know about State Farm at this point, It's that they don't do anything for you unless they're required to do it. And that includes following the contract. So if you put the cart before the horse with them, you're going to get stung.
Because we
when it comes to any kind of settlement, whether it's an insurance settlement, it's a lawsuit, don't spend money you don't have, because sometimes it doesn't come through.
I told you, on that cruise that I went on, I sat next to a woman who used to work for State Farm in the hot tub, and now she's an adjuster. And she says that by far, and it's not even close, State Farm is the worst company to work with if you're trying to get them to pay out on a claim. That you have to force them to do everything. They don't do anything willingly. You have to force them into writing every single check.
And despite that reputation, Ricardo Lara still gave them that emergency rate hike.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ricardo.
because we believe that the insurance would follow through.
5 months later, their personal funds are dwindling down.
But is this going to hurt our family if we were basically, call it 75% done, and we have to stop our home, our construction?
And problems getting insurance payouts.
That's going to be a different kind of emblem of the fire recovery.
Well, and this is also not going to be a one-off. I would imagine that anyone in that area with State Farm or the Fair Plan or other plans that are notorious for being slow pays, they're all going to put up with this.
Our construction.
And problems getting insurance payouts are piling up. Lopez says despite the total loss of his home, State Farm is offering about $400,000 less than their policy limit.
What's the point of having a contract if it's not worth anything?
No, and you look at these policies and you look at what homes cost in Pacific Palisades, my guess is it should be, in theory, easy. They're all maxed out.
You pay your bills for years and years. Even said that I'd rather pay a little bit more to have a better coverage than to be left out like this.
Thursday, the California Department of Insurance launched an investigation into State Farm's handling of the Eaton and Palisades fire claims.
Although that's really mostly for show.
Right. Because he had an opportunity to deny their rate hike when they failed to provide the necessary evidence to receive it. And instead, he announced before the hearing ever took place that he was going to give it to him, didn't bother to attend the hearing, and then gave it to him.
And then got all indignant at that conference saying that he's the one putting his future on the line.
I may be criticized and dragged through the mud for it and get my wig snatched, as the gay guys say.
I love that she sits on it there for a while before she ends it.
The state will do a market conduct examination in response to customer complaints.
You mean the thousands of complaints that have been organized by people saying, hey, we're trying to recover here, and State Farm is nickel and diming every single person that lost a home in the Palisades or the Altadena area?
Have you noticed that the news has not been able to produce one person, not one, who was a State Farm customer who said that they're happy with the services they received? And our email box is filled with messages from people who say that they're having trouble and they contact the California Department of Insurance and they can't get a call returned.
They can't get a single person to do a testimonial for them. State Farm could easily say, hey, here's an example of somebody that we took care of. They don't have it.
No, because their policy is to say no to everything and only write checks when you're forced to.
We have collected over 400 firsthand accounts of systemic delays and denials and underpayments by State Farm on our website at efsurvivors.net.
Joy Chen is the founder of the Eaton Fire Survivors Network, a group who has been calling for the state investigation and is now pushing the state insurance commissioner to expedite it.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah. Let's see if you get a call returned.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
I mean, we're getting to summer travel season. Ricardo Lara is not going to be around.
Oh, no. DJ Kitty Glitter's going on world tour.
And to release the findings publicly, transparently, and confirm that the company has paid all that it owes to Eaton and Palisades survivors before Commissioner Lara considers any further rate hikes.
But he already considered a massive one. And what did they do? They immediately applied for another one.
And he could have extracted something out of them. He could have said, all right, we'll give it to you, but here's what I want in return. I want every contract with every homeowner in the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire taken care of. I'm not asking for anything extra. I'm just asking you to quickly fulfill your contractual obligations. But he didn't do that. And these people cannot get paid.
NBC4 requested an interview with State Farm. They referred us to a statement saying, in part, a fair review will find thousands of State Farm customers are being helped by our teams on the ground in Los Angeles County and are very satisfied.
Show us one.
Yes.
Bring
let's
out
put
one person.
We're on 5 days a week. 5 days. If State Farm can produce one homeowner that's happy with the services they're receiving, I will book them as a guest and put them on this program and allow them to tell their story.
It went on to say, we actively work with each of our customers to understand the facts of their loss, identify the damages and applicable coverage, and ultimately resolve their claim. Lopes is holding out hope he can reach a resolution with State Farm, but vowing to return to his home no matter what it takes. He worries not everyone has the resources or resolve to take on that level of risk.
And I don't want to be in a neighborhood where it's going to be just my home and I'm not going to see anyone around.
Unfortunately, that's what it already looks like.
Oh, yeah. I don't think these people are moving back. I think they're going to move on.
I want to...
So the California Insurance Commission estimates that this investigation will take several months. They say even though the investigation is underway, the
findings of this investigation won't be released until Ricardo Lara's out of office.
Several months. Okay, several could be, I guess, 3. But it could also be, I don't know, over a year. These people need answers now. This is not the time to study something or to establish a blue ribbon commission or things of that nature when you just want to stall. You can't stall when there's a tragedy like this. You have to get answers expedited. And that's just not what they have any interest in doing.
They say even though the investigation is underway, people who have issues with their insurance payouts in relation to the fire should still file a formal complaint.
You mean call the office that you don't answer the phone at?
This is like the Oakland PD saying, oh, if you got carjacked, just fill out a form online. Okay, we'll get right on that.
Reporting live, I'm Carmen Dickerson, NBC4 News.
There you go. There's the latest. The Palisades homeowner who's trying to rebuild, the one that Karen Bass used as a prop to show how great everything's going, is now going broke because he's paying for his construction out of his own pocket because State Farm screwed him over.
So this is basically a political problem for the people of Altadena and Pacific Palisades. And I say that because while this fire was the costliest fire in the history of the nation, and it was the largest fire in the history of Los Angeles County, if you look at the overall number of people whose homes burned down compared to the overall number of people who live in the county, it's an extremely small percentage. It's not like if a larger tragedy happened where there's Hurricane Andrew wipes out everything in South Florida, everyone in that community is kind of in the same boat. In this particular case, you're talking about 2 relatively small communities that experience large amounts of damage. Because you're talking about a handful of people in the overall scheme of things, their votes, if they decide to go against all of the incumbents, or they decide to really go after the insurance commissioner or the mayor or whomever, it's not large enough to really make an impact. So if you're Ricardo Lara or you are Karen Bass, what you do is you say, oh, yeah, they're being helped. Oh, yeah, we're investigating. Oh, yeah, we're on top of it, because you're not trying to satisfy the people who were impacted by the fires. You're trying to satisfy politically the greater electorate. And if the greater electorate hears, oh, you're investigating, oh, you're on top of it, oh, okay, that's good enough for them because they don't have skin in the game. If it's your life that's been turned upside down, them delaying and stalling is catastrophic. But statistically, you don't matter. And that's the way they look at it. They look at this as an overall publicity problem. In fact, those were the terms that Ricardo Lara used to address it when he was speaking in front of that group in Sacramento. He looks at it as a political problem, as it's damaging his reputation. It's damaging his ability to win elections. He views this as a political problem. And because of that, there's no motivation for the politicians or for the insurance companies to do anything for these people. And it's sad because they've all been through trauma. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you missed yesterday's show and you want to find out what you missed out on, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube. Get one of our apps, the KABC app or the KSFO app. Share the shows with your friends. Like and subscribe. Put them on your Facebook groups. That's what a smart dude would do. If you don't want to do any of that, well...
And you'd have had martial law, you dumb dude.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Fits in the Tantrums with Aloe Black at the Pacific Amphitheater at the OC Fair, July 25th. It's all part of the Toyota Summer Concert Series. Tickets are on sale now at pacamp.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. All concert tickets include admission to the OC Fair. Tickets furnished by the Pacific Amphitheater. Good luck dialing.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Doug McIntyre joins us at the top of the hour. Well, State Farm isn't the only company that got caught with their hand in the cookie jar this week. Randy, so did PG&E.
Once again, it's the same old story. PG&E looking at criminal fines for lack of maintenance that led to a massive wildfire, this one in San Mateo County in 2022. For more, here is NBC Bay Area.
Well, PG&E is in trouble again, this time over a fire that broke out 3 years ago in San Mateo County. Our investigative unit learned CAL FIRE
Remember how much money PG&E has spent with ratepayer money buying ads on local radio and TV, talking about how they've reformed, they've changed their ways, and no, they haven't.
Well, they look at this as a PR problem. It's not a you're burning people alive problem. It's a PR problem. So PR problems can be fixed with advertising. If they actually wanted to fix the underlying issue, that would cost a lot more money and would require them to deal with all of their faulty equipment.
Our investigative unit learned CAL FIRE has referred the case to prosecutors, and that's because of the length of time the utility allegedly delayed some critical safety work. Investigative reporter Jackson Vanderbecken has the details.
And when you listen to this story, just remember, this is the company that Gavin Newsom has bailed out over and over and over again. This is the company that has given to Gavin Newsom and his wife's nonprofit over and over and over again.
Yeah. This company is as important to Gavin Newsom's career as the Getty family.
The Edgewood fire burned a hillside near Redwood City during a sweltering June day in 2022. Thanks to low winds, it was, but the firefight.
Oh, wow. Their own feed cut out.
Wasn't easy.
We had some firefighters from our county who suffered injuries. And we do believe that PG&E engaged.
San Mateo County District Attorney Steve Wagstaff says his office is reviewing CAL FIRE's report on the Edgewood fire, which refers the utility for possible criminal prosecution. Which
aren't they already a convicted felon?
Yeah, which is real hard to do if you're a company.
Which could trigger corporate fines and greater oversight.
Well, we haven't.
What oversight? The California Public Utilities Commission is made up of former executives of PG&E.
While we haven't made our final decision by any stretch, it is certainly something where we feel there is liability on PG&E's part.
He says that's because the utility repeatedly put off addressing an issue that CAL FIRE determined sparked the fire. The allegation is that PG&E left a high-voltage line sagging in place for 6 years, until it finally came close enough to a line below it to spark the fire.
That's almost kind of what happened with SoCal Edison and the Eden fire, allegedly.
A lot of these fires have similar origins, whether it is faulty equipment from an electric company or homeless encampments, there are basically two things, well, I guess three if you throw in the gender reveal parties, that start the fires in this state. We're not dealing with lightning that's starting fires like they used to deal with a long time ago. We're dealing with two very specific problems.
Regulators with the Public Utilities Commission noted that PG&E engineers first flagged the sagging line in 2016 when it.
So they knew about it for 8 years and didn't do anything until it burned everything down.
How many more issues do you think they have that are just like this that they know about that they're not doing anything with?
Tons.
When it was less than 6 feet from the line below. State safety regulations mandate a minimum 8 feet of separation, and the company's own rules specify that should have been addressed within 3 months.
California is such an interesting place because we are, by definition, a very overregulated state, but the people in charge of the regulating are either incompetent or corrupt.
Well, it's just like with everything else in this state. They will fine you until you're blue in the face, and they will regulate you out of existence. But if you decide that you just want to take over a freeway and destroy a bunch of public property, well, that's a peaceful protest, and there's nothing we can do about that. But if you follow the rules and color outside the lines one tiny bit, they jump all over you.
But 6 years later, the high voltage line was sagging so badly, the lines were less than 2 feet apart, and according to the commission's investigation, sparked the fire.
As a result of this, two lines getting too close together, producing something that looks identical to lightning, melting the copper, dropping the copper on the ground, and then we have a fire.
Ken Buskey was investigating.
How many of these situations do we need to have over and over and over again before we do something about it? Because obviously PG&E didn't learn any of the lessons after the campfire when they got bailed out by Gavin Newsom.
Well, I wonder if the state will jump all over them, because if they're starting fires right and left and that's melting their copper, then their communities can't steal it.
And reviewed the regulators' findings. CAL FIRE's report has not been made public.
There's a reason there was a required 8-foot clearance is to take care of these problems. They ignored what the rule was at their own peril, and they ended up with a fire.
State regulators cite a pattern of lapsed maintenance issues in their whopping $7 million citation for the Edgewood fire, stating PG&E has a history of failing to act in a timely manner.
What's $7 million going to do? How is that supposed to change their behavior? Nobody ever sees any jail time for when you actually have death from these things and all the destruction and everything else. They're able to pass on these fines to ratepayers like SoCal Edison was able to do very recently with the Woolsey fire. So what exactly is the punishment that deters the bad behavior?
No, there is no punishment. When you're dealing with a company like PG&E that basically provides power and electricity to Northern California, $7 million is a rounding error. That's not going to get them to change their behavior. That's just the cost of doing business.
To address maintenance issues and safety hazards, PG&E told us it is still reviewing the commission's findings. It says it's beefed up inspections to ensure safe spacing of lines across its system.
Yeah, I'm not buying that one, Patty Poppy.
Nope.
It hopes to ease its maintenance backlog by 2029 by mega bundling outstanding repairs and prioritizing highest fire risk problems.
By the way, they're still doing all this deferred maintenance, not checking on their equipment, as they have jacked up rates 6 times in 1 year and are now asking for a rate hike specifically just to increase their dividends.
Well, this is how they win either way. If the fine is small, they just pay it and don't worry about it. If the fine is large, they just pass it on to ratepayers. It doesn't matter.
That focus, it told us, has cut backlog-related fire risk by as much as 79%. PG&E's wildfire prevention work is making our system safer and more resilient while positioning us...
Well, they already burned down half the state.
Well, they've done that a couple of times.
While positioning us to better serve our customers in the short and long term and respond to our state's evolving climate challenges, the company said in a statement.
I don't know if it's climate or if it's bad equipment.
Seems more like it to me.
The company said in a statement.
It's getting better. It's getting better every year.
Mark Knoll is a Butte County prosecutor who has joined other counties in overseeing PG&E's fire safety efforts since the 2021 Dixie megafire, the largest.
I didn't know that was a term.
Megafire? Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage were the mega powers.
The largest in state history.
It's still not perfect, but it's definitely improving. And from everything that we're seeing, we are definitely...
Is it that it's improving or that we got lucky and that there wasn't a situation where something didn't break because we know it can? Because while PG&E hasn't had an incredibly destructive wildfire in the last year, SoCal Edison just had one of the worst ones we've ever seen.
Well, just think about this for a second. Look at the vendetta, like it's some kind of Sicilian thing that Newsom and the legislature have with the oil companies. The oil companies never did anything like this to the state of California. And then you have a company like PG&E that's burning us alive. And we have these regulatory agencies like the California Public Utilities Commission that exist to regulate them, to keep them in line. And those boards and commissions have been co-opted by the companies. They roll over for them. They use their power only when they can punish their enemies with it, but they don't use their power to make sure that companies are operating lawfully in the state.
Oh, it's worse than that, because what does Gavin Newsom do at every press conference where he goes after big oil, who he says is screwing you? He blames them for the big wildfires that took out Paradise and took out some of these other places. And he blames the oil companies, not PG&E, who was criminally liable for that fire.
The oil companies didn't do any of that to us. PG&E did.
Seeing a shift, an active shift in the culture of PG&E.
But in San Mateo County, DA Wagstaff is still weighing whether to file criminal charges for the Edgewood fire.
If PG&E truly does care, and they run lots of ads to tell you they care.
Yes, they do.
My personal belief is they could do a better job at caring.
Jackson. By the way, those ads that run incessantly over Bay Area television, those are paid for with ratepayer money that's supposed to go towards wildfire mitigation.
And it is, because they're convincing people that they're doing that, even though they're not really doing it in any material way.
Jackson Vanderbeck in NBC Bay Area. We investigate.
There you go. Yet another fire that PG&E is responsible for. And is PG&E going to see any real punishment for it? No.
Well, we know that Luigi Mangione, the alleged assassin of a healthcare executive on the streets of New York City, is beloved by deranged people all over the internet. Well, it's not just the cat ladies on the internet who love Luigi. Apparently, they're making a musical about him that will debut in San Francisco.
Luigi, the musical, because, of course, this is a perfect subject for that. It opened at a black box theater in San Francisco this week, and let's find out what the hell this is about. Here is KPIX.
I feel like we don't talk a lot about theater causing a ruckus, but nevertheless, it is opening night in San Francisco for a controversial new show. Luigi the Musical is based on none other than Luigi Mangione, the man suspected of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
What a whimsical topic.
I'll tell you, if you're going to see a musical about an assassin, I don't recommend sitting in the balcony.
And the play is described as a satirical comedy. Andrea Nakano was there as the theater opened its doors.
Opening night for Luigi the Musical was a sold-out event at the Taylor Street Theater. The curtain rose.
Sold out to who exactly?
Would you see this play if given tickets?
No.
Yeah, me either. I need to see this play like I need a bullet in my back.
The curtain rose at this 49-seat black box.
Okay, by the way, sold out means something completely different when it's a 50-seat theater.
50 seats?
And how many of those seats are reporters that are covering this story?
There's more people in line at any In-N-Out burger in the state of California.
The curtain rose at this 49-seat black box venue to an audience curious about how Luigi Mangione...
Black box venue is code for this is a place that usually does improv classes.
Black box venue to an audience curious about how Luigi Mangione will be portrayed on stage.
The whole Luigi unfolding has been something that is really compelling. I think a lot of people really support him.
What?
Yeah, that's a woman who's showing up to the play because she thinks that the actor might be naked.
Support him, and what better way to honor him and what's happening?
Honor the murderer?
Yep. I'm telling you, this guy is going to have at least a dozen women proposing to him in prison.
To honor him and what's happening by putting it into a musical and making, creating some levity in a scenario that is just so tragic.
Mangione is a controversial figure currently facing federal and state charges for the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
The most important thing is just knowing how many people support him, even if he did do it.
Well, at least she's being honest.
OJ.
Yeah, well, the OJ the musical I'd see.
I bet you someone did that.
If not, you and I can always put pen to paper.
The most important thing is just knowing how many people support him, even if he did do it, is really fascinating. Because
I ain't saying he should have killed the healthcare executive, but I understand.
She's the white Chris Rock.
Because it really just shows how dire the situation actually is, that the healthcare system is broken, and that people would be willing to prop up somebody who would potentially resort to violence in order to try to help fix a system that is
potentially
hurting.
resort to violence? What the hell does that mean?
Hey guys, it's Art. I'm sorry to bust in on your show. I'm reading about this. It's a 3-character play starring Diddy, Sam Bankman-Fried, and your friend.
OJ?
Oh boy.
Luigi.
Different friend.
Oh, Luigi. Okay. I was about to say, if OJ starring in it, then they're going to need a Ouija board.
In order to try to help fix a system that is hurting so many people.
The producers of the musical say the show is part comedy and part social commentary.
Oh boy.
I wonder if it's a slapstick comedy.
Riley got a sneak peek before opening night.
Play itself is not really about the supportiveness of his actions. It's more of commentary on just the way that the zeitgeist of it arises.
So this is a trap for hipsters to be ironic about something.
Oh, they'll go.
The producers want audience members to walk away with a good laugh, but they want to use comedy to bring deeper questions to the surface.
Oh, no.
I love the fact that none of them care that someone was murdered.
Can we just admit that this is a cash grab for something that went viral for all the wrong reasons?
It's nice to know that we can still have our own kind of art and our interpretation of political events, even in these times.
Of a murder.
Well, at least them have thought it through.